Okay, welcome back everybody. The last sheet you had was on solving systems using the substitution method. You had 4 problems to do. If you didn't get to work on it, I would suggest pausing the video when I put up the problem. Try it first, then press play, and then see if you went in the same direction that I'm going to go. Okay, the first problem. You have 2x plus y equals 13. The second problem. 4x minus 3y equals 11. Okay, so again, if you haven't tried it yet, pause the video. When you're ready, just press play, and then you can see where I went with it. So, if you look at the two equations, there are 4 possible variables. That's what you need to do. You need to get one of those variables by itself. If you look at the 2 equations, one of them makes sense as to the one you should be solving for. I mean, you can solve for any of them, but when I look at it, there's one that is better than the other 3. I would solve for y here. Here, to get y by itself, you need to get rid of this 2x. I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. Y equals 13 minus 2x. Okay, now the reason why I didn't solve for the others is because if I had, for example, if I had solved for the 2x and got it by itself, you still need to get x by itself, in which case you would have to divide by 2. That means we would have a bunch of fractions. Same on this side. If I had solved for x, I would have had to divide by 4 eventually. Or if I solved for y, I would have had to divide by -3 eventually, meaning we would have had a bunch of fractions in our expression. Here, by solving for y, there's no division. We have nice whole numbers to work with. Okay, so first step, get the variable by itself. Now, second step, we are going to take this expression and replace it into the second equation in place of this y. Okay, so we're substituting. In place of y, we're going to replace it with 13 minus 2x. Everything else stays the same. So 4x minus 3, and in place of y, we put 13 minus 2x. Okay, now that we've replaced y with 13 minus 2x, the entire equation has just one variable. Now we can start to solve. -3 distributes to everything in the parentheses. So 4x minus 39 plus 6x equals 11. Yeah, keep in mind, that's a -3 here. Multiplies with a -2x, that's a plus 6x. Now we can combine terms, get x by itself. That combines to give us 10x minus 39 equals 11. Now we just get x by itself. We need to get 10x by itself. We need to get rid of the minus 39. Add 39 to both sides. That's gone. 10x equals 50. Now we just get x by itself. Divide. Undo the multiplication. Okay, so we found our first answer. X is equal to 5. Now we take this answer and we can put it back into any of the equations that has x, and we solve for the other variable. I'm going to put it into this one. Y equals 13 minus 2, and in place of x, I'm going to put the 5. And then we solve for y. So y equals 3. That's our solution. If you want, you can write it as a coordinate point. 5, 3. Otherwise, x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 3. Okay, let's try the second problem. The next problem (2x plus y equals 10). 4x minus y equals 5. Okay? There are 4 variables again. We need to get one of them by itself. There are, in my mind, there are 2 good choices. One is better than the other, though. In this equation, I would try to get this y by itself. The other possibility I would say is this one. I would try to get this y by itself. But you'd have to get rid of the negative eventually. So for those of you that don't like working with the negatives, yeah, I would go with this one. I would get rid of the 2x to get y by itself. Subtract 2x on both sides. So that's gone. Y equals 10 minus 2x. Now we take this expression and we're going to replace y in the second equation. 4x minus. And in place of y, we're going to put 10 minus 2x. Okay, now that we substituted for the y, we can start to solve because the entire equation is only x now. This negative has to be distributed to everything in the parentheses. It's like a -1. -1 has to be multiplied to everything in the parentheses. So this is 4x -10 plus 2x equals 5. Okay, we can combine terms. We get x by itself. That will be 6x minus 10 is equal to 5. We're going to get rid of the minus 10. Oh, this one's going to come out ugly. Okay. X equals 15 over 6. That can be simplified. Both numbers can be divided by 3. Okay, 5 halves. If you want, 2.5 is fine also. Now that we know what x is, we are going to replace into one of the original equations anything that has an x in it, and we're going to solve for the other variable. I'm going to use this equation right here. 10 minus 2, and in place of x, I'm going to put the 5 halves. Y equals 10 minus 10 over 2. Y equals 10 minus 5. Okay, y is equal to 5. Getting better? Okay, let's try the next problem. The third problem, you had 2x plus y equals 8 and x equals 2y plus 8. Okay, now you look at the two equations, we want a variable by itself. We could get y by itself here, which is fine, that's one good possibility. But if you look at this equation, x is already by itself. So we should just use this one. We're going to replace x in the other equation with this expression. So in this first equation, in place of x, we're going to put 2y plus 8. And then we write the rest of the equation out. We're going to do the substitution. Okay, we substituted x with 2y plus 8. Now we have an equation that has only one variable. We are going to distribute, we're going to combine terms, we're going to solve for y. 4y plus 16 plus y equals 8. We can combine these two. 5y plus 16. Now we try to get y by itself. We're going to get rid of the 16. All we got to do is get rid of the 5. We're going to undo the multiplication. Divide both sides by 5. Oh, this one ugly again. Okay. Y equals -8/5. All we gotta do is solve for x. We're gonna take this, replace it into something that has a y, and then we're gonna solve for the other variable, x. I'm gonna put it here. In place of y, we have -8/5. -16/5 plus 8. Oof. Yeah, this is like 8 over 1. I can multiply top and bottom by 5. We need a common denominator. Okay, so x equals, oh, what is that? 30, 24? 24/5. Okay, let's try. You got one more to go. Three x plus 2y equals 7. X plus 3y equals negative 5. Okay, we need to get one variable by itself. There are 4 possible to choose from. If you look, one of them is better than the other 3, in my opinion. We should get x by itself. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the plus 3y. Subtract 3y on both sides. So that's good. Okay, so now we have a variable by itself. This expression, we are going to substitute for x in the other equation here. So in place of x, we're going to put negative 5 minus 3y. Now we have an equation that has only one variable. So now we can solve. Negative 15 minus 9y plus 2y equals 7. We can combine the terms. That's a negative 7y. Now we just get the y by itself. Add 15 to both sides. Negative 7y equals 22. Oh, this one's going to come out ugly again. Y equals 22 over negative 7. Okay, we take this and we're going to replace it back into one of the equations that has a y in it, and we're going to solve for the variable x. I'm going to put it here. X equals negative 5 minus 3, and in place of y, we're going to substitute with 22 over negative 7. X equals negative 5 plus 66 over 7. Negative 35 over 7 plus 66 over 7. Oh, what is that? 31 over 7? Okay. That was the review sheet for the substitution method. Okay, we'll see you folks later.